afternoon and welcome to the 13th workshop of Thrive, a Grad Partners initiative. Today, we welcome national winners of Maruti Xcelerate 2023 competition, Ankush Thakur, Kaveri Dixit, and Tushar Satya from MDI Gurgaon. Let's deep dive to understand how they developed the ideal solution and became the national winner of Maruti Xcelerate. Welcome everyone. I would request you to give a brief introduction about yourselves and we'll take this discussion forward.
Hi guys, I hope you are doing well. So my name is Ankush Thakur. I'm currently working in Make My Trip. With me, I have my teammates Tushar Satya. He's working in Air India, and Kaveri Dixit. She's working as a consultant in Accenture Strategy.
So let's moving on with the presentation. I'm adding the PPT.
Firstly, we will like to take you through the problem statement, what was given to us, how we went on through all the rounds, and what ensured or what tricks or tips we followed to make us the national winners. Let's begin. As we know, the problem statement was related to connected cars. So cars are something that any company can build, but experience is something that they can add and bring it to the customer and make a unique selling point or differentiating factor. So the objective of Maruti Suzuki was also the same. They wanted to play around connected cars. Connected cars, just to give you a background, it's like any car that can communicate with the users, the passengers inside, as well as to the infrastructure around it, and also through the internet to the internet. So Maruti really wanted to go into this connected car new technology, and hence they floated this problem statement. And we were giving mainly four major tasks. The first one was they wanted to bring this technology and experience together. So they were asking about how this connected car-centric product and service portfolio can be achieved. So it's very, very important at this stage when you're reading the problem statements, you go through all the points again and again. So at this stage, what made us stand out is that we went to the problem statement at least 4 to 5 times. We did that individually. Then we came together in a group and tried to understand all the lines together. So just a hygiene tip, but always go through that so that you don't miss things that are underlined or don't miss things that are not directly said. For the second part, they wanted there's a huge amount of data when you are talking about connected cars. So they wanted how can data management and future possibility be done. For the third part, they really wanted that this is going to be a 60 million passenger vehicles by 2030, the whole industry. So what can Maruti Suzuki play a role in the infrastructure part to make this connected car possible? And finally, the fourth point is they wanted to get some differentiating factor from competitors, and they wanted to play around their core values. So these were the four tasks that we were given, and we went through the stages of going through a quiz, then submitting our one slider, then going through a semi-final which was online, and we presented our presentation, and finally the national finals held with four teams. So, without further ado, let's see our slides. What made us stand out? What was the thinking behind it? And how we ensured that we came out as national winners. So, over to you, Ankush.
Correct. So, like Tushar said, I would also like to focus on the journey, how it went, right? So, the first round of quiz, Tushar was traveling and only Kaveri and I were available. But again, then we decided ki, let's just give the quiz, right? So, hadn't we made the decision that we don't want to give the quiz, we wouldn't be here, right? So, sometimes it takes only a little bit of efforts that leads to the results, right? So first, I would like to walk you through the process that we followed before even coming to the presentation, right? So connected cars, can we just go back to the problem statements and let's slice it a little bit, right? So firstly, cars was something that we weren't familiar with, right? Tushar, Kaveri and I, we don't have any background in this industry, right? But still we thought let's try to delve deep into the industry, right? So we went through a lot of research papers, right? So the first part of any case competition journey is how you interpret the problem. If you have interpreted the problem in the right way, if you can summarize the problem in one word, that means you have cracked the problem. If not, then you might come up with a solution that is not aligned with what they are asking. Correct? So for example, I remember there was a case competition around Colgate where they wanted people to brush twice, right? What mistake people did was they created a product which was never the case asked, right? It was more focused around communication. So the first step of any case competition is that you interpret the problem in the right way, right? Followed by research. So for example, this Maruti Suzuki was a competition wherein we didn't know much about the industry, so we went through the research paper. What is connected cars, right? How the market is developing across the globe, and where did this concept of connected car came into the picture, right? Fortunately, Tushar and I were in Europe, so it helped us relate to Indian market versus the European market, how they are developing, why there is a need for the connected cars in India versus how it is different than in the European context. So I'll give you a little bit of fact over here. So in Europe, if you want to go from one point A to point B, right, it's very very connected, right? It's heavily connected. There are metros, there are buses. The public transport is really really good. But if you look at the Indian market, it's very very fragmented in terms of connectivity also, right? So you have to change the bus, you have to take the metro, there are auto rickshaws also, something that does not directly exist in the European market. So this gives you a comparison. Okay, this is why the strategies that have been used in Europe or USA are going to be different in terms of the Indian context. Correct? So first of all, there were four asks, right? And to summarize all of these four asks into one two slider or one slider is really, really difficult task, right? So usually what the structure we follow is we try to explain the problem in the first slide itself, right? This is our understanding of the problem. In the second slide, we present the solution. Okay, this is how the problem can be solved. Correct? So this is what we submitted in the semifinals. Now, in the grand finale, what happened was a little bit of interesting story that happened. So we were asked to present a statement about our team, right, to the jury. So every team was saying some words like we are this and this is how we are aligned towards this, right? So what we did was we created one a positioning statement for our team, right? So these things also matter when we are in the finale. So we owned it, we said it with all the enthusiasm, and this is something that everyone appreciated. Correct? So now coming on to the problem statement and what our understanding of the problem statement was and what solution we presented to the team. Correct? So this is how we looked at the Indian connected cars market. Okay, these are the players that exist today in the market. So Maruti Suzuki is the market leader, right? But it does not have a very good penetration in terms of the connected car. This is something that the research told us. Okay, this is where the Maruti Suzuki wants to move. This is why they are looking to come up with a connected cars portfolio. So we understood why there is a company who has such and such intent of of the problem. So this is why we are doing it, this is why we are trying to solve the problem over here. So you also need to understand where do you stand up in terms of the company's ambition, right? So we also looked at the market phenomena, how they are shaping in terms of the Indian context. So we figure out, okay, so Indians, they are now, the behavior is changing, right? So ever since the Netflix, Amazon Prime and these things started to touch India, so the subscription is something that is coming flowing to the market, right? This is how the market is developing. Initially people didn't were not accustomed to subscription market, but now they are their behaviors have changed, right? So can we leverage this thing when we want to present our solutions or not? So in one word, the problem was more focused around we are Maruti Suzuki and we want to build a connected car portfolio. You tell us how we do it, right? So portfolio creation is one word. If I have to give you, this was the crux of the problem that we were solving, right? Now we, upon extensive secondary research, we figured out and we came up across two or three good research paper that told us that two out of three Indians are also willing to pay up to 50,000 for these technologies. So it's not like there is not a demand of these connected cars. There is, right? So we just want to leverage it in our favor. Now, yeah, so coming to the challenges, once we have seen the market, this is how the market is, this is how it is fragmented, these are the behaviors the consumers are behaving in such way. So we also try to look at the challenges that can come when we are talking about the connected car. So one was, if we present a connected car to the consumer, are they going to adopt it or not, right? If they are not going to adopt it, why they are not going to adopt it, right? Is it something related to data privacy, right? Is it something related to reliability of these connected cars? For example, do you today, if we tell you that there is a car which does is a driverless car that doesn't need any driver, and it can just be controlled by AI, still people wouldn't rely on that car, because there will be a little bit of doubt over here that what about my safety, right? So these are the things that people have in the back of their mind, and we have to target these in pieces, right? Based on
Ankush, sorry to interrupt,
yeah,
but we have a little query regarding
yep,
to connected cars.
yep.
So, can you define what are connected cars and how AI or other technologies are involved in cars to make them a connected car?
Correct. So connected cars. So basically, what happens is, suppose there are two different cars, right? If they can communicate to each other, it becomes a connected car. If they can communicate to the infrastructure, it becomes a connected car, right? So the very concept of the connected car is, for example, if I put a SIM into a car, right, and it will have internet connectivity via which, or sensors, it can connect, it can talk to different like stakeholders, like I was mentioning, the infrastructure, like the other cars, then it becomes connected. Not, it's not just your car, right? It becomes a whole ecosystem where you can talk to each other, and you can retrieve data, and you can use that data for the better experience of the consumer. So this is the very concept of the connected cars. I hope I
And
answered that.
answering
Yeah,
the
thank
AI
you.
part, so artificial intelligence is something that can enhance or take smart decisions or give more what we say autonomy to the logic that you're applying. So be it connected car or any other concept that's coming in today's time, AI can always help you to enhance it. But even though AI is a buzzword, you don't always need to think from the AI point of view, especially when you are in an autonomous or those kind of critical industry where the logistic, or I would say the legal issues, or from government point of view, a lot of things are involved. So yes, you need to think from AI point of view also in most of the case competitions, but be aware till what extent you can use AI topics in which are heavily regulated industry. So go with the basics, what Ankush told, the definition of the connected car, and we try to play around more on that.
Thank you, thank you. I think that has answered the question. We can move
So
forward.
how do you make such a good looking presentation? So practice presentation is something that comes very later in the stage of when this case competition journey. So the if you have very good understanding of the problem and what solution and the nitty gritties of the case, then everything is in the mind, right? What you have to do is you have to present it in a very good visual format. That's it. So if you know what you are solving for, then making a very good looking presentation is easier, right? So this is, I think that would answers Donald's question. So yeah.
And also there's like basic hygiene, especially in the first round. You really need to play around the beautiful presentation, because first round there are a lot of submissions coming. Even though you have done really good research, your solution are really good, but if you're not able to present it in a way that is attractive to the HRs or unstopped team that are shortlisting the first round, it you might get rejected. So always think like basic hygiene checks, like not too much text, but also have graphics, graphs, and put you can also put a lot of annexures that we used to do in a way that it shows credibility to our research. So, and also you can always think about the color theme or the branding of the company. What colors, for example, Maruti Suzuki has, what color this case competition, they gave us a X on Unstop. So we were playing with all the colors of the X. So always think from the brand perspective, and also you can always look into the YouTube videos of the national finals of last year's. Sometimes you Unstop have it available on YouTube, and get an idea from it, like what kind of things they're liking, not liking.
Actually, this year we are also grad partners are also producing these master classes. So this has been the
Yes,
30th master class. So you can also refer those videos to get an idea of national winners PPPs.
definitely. Yeah.
Correct.
Okay, we can move forward.
Yes, so till this point, we have tried to understand the problem, right? So this is more about creating a connected cars portfolio from two perspective. One is the company perspective, how the company is looking at creating a portfolio, and the second is consumer perspective. If I create a portfolio, will it suit to the customers or not? Right. So these are the two perspective, broadly speaking, that we have considered also, and we have tried to come up with these insights. Okay, if we come up with, for example, let's say a connected cars. Now there is a interesting thing about connected cars. You can have many features, right? But to prioritize that these are the features that I want, these are the features that the consumers are willing to pay, becomes important, right? So this is what our next step was. We looked at if we come up with such and such features which fits the very definition of the connected cars, are consumers willing to pay for it or not? So this is also a result of secondary research, the graph you see over here, correct? So to summarize the three main insights over here, the customers are more interested in driving related features, right? If it's a car they want, if even if it's a connected car, it will help them in driving, right? So this was the first major insight that we found. The second one was they are willing to grant access to the application that are related to driving, correct? So the second part of the problem was if there are data privacy concerns, how do you tackle it? We'll come up to that, but summarizing that customers are willing to grant access, right? And the third thing is the consumers are not dumb anymore. They are well informed about these topics of privacy and all the stuff. So we need to keep that in mind also. So we cannot just take their data and use it for our purpose. We have to keep consumer at some point into consideration also. So moving forward, yep. So based on all the research and everything, this is what we created. So this is what we cooked, and this particular slide was something that made us stand out from everyone, right? So this is something you see. We usually do not like to stick up with very known frameworks. We like to create our own frameworks over here, right? So the first part of the problem was how do you make a connected car portfolio, right? And since for us also, we figured out that there are a lot of features that you can put into the portfolio. So how do I present it to the customer, right? So the idea over here is, if I create a portfolio, I want a pamphlet that I can give it to the consumer and he will be able to understand it and interpret it in very simple manner, right? I don't want to throw random words at the consumer that he will not understand. So this is how we come up with. So we divided that there are going to be basic, standard, and premium packages, something that Netflix also offers, right? So we took inspiration from Netflix, how the Netflix uses this subscription model in three different parts, right? So this is how we created. Okay, there are going to be three packages, and there are going to be sub packages in them, right? So we divided that. Okay, for car to fit into the connected car definition, these are the things that we need, right? Those, for example, the basic car would have at least these packages that will make it move to the connected cars definition, right? For example, the basic security and safety package, this is something that is very crucial to the definition of connected car. Navigation pack is something that we need to put in the connected car so that it will have all the sensors that we need to retrieve the data, right? So this is something, this is how we categorize the different features into packages, right? So and created a little bit of portfolio over here. Now coming to the add-on packages, how we created these add-on packages are, even if they are not present in the car, right? Even if the consumer are not willing to pay much and there is not a lot of demand, we can put them in add-on packages wherein if the consumer wants it, right, they can customize their car over here, correct? So this was the second part of what we created on the plan. The third thing is subscription based services. We, like I was mentioning, the subscription market is also growing, right, in India. So we thought, okay, so let's try to collate it with the whole ecosystem. So Maruti Suzuki currently offers driving lessons also. They have this vehicle health app and these kind of things also. So can we these are things that we want, okay, let's just give it to the consumer and see if they want it, right? These are short term. For example, once you have learned driving, you wouldn't want it very frequently, right? You want it at the very beginning of your car journey, right? So this is why a subscription model fits into that specific service more accurately, right? And the last part was the post sale services, right? For example, if I have got the car, I know I have I know how to drive and I have customized my car. Now what, right? Now if I'm going to use the car, there are going to be certain warranty issues there, there will be maintenance issues, right? So we can collate them in post sale services, right? Wherein, for example, if I'm using a very specific sensor in a connected car, I want to replace it also, right? So these become the post sale services part of the portfolio. So this is how this one slide summarized everything that they wanted to understand. Cool. Now over to Tushar.
Yeah. So in this slide, you can see how we talked about. In the previous slide, you saw how we talked about different packages that we are offering. But a Maruti, from company point of view, they need a rationale, like how to map which kind of portfolio to which kind of cars, and also how they can do the segmentation properly. So for that, we made this slide. So we were mapping the key features. We took some examples from the previous slide, divided into V2I, V2V, V2X. V2I is vehicle to infrastructure communication, V2V is vehicle to vehicle, and V2X is vehicle to, and again, any other things that are happening in the environment. So first of all, you really need to do some research behind, as you can see, what are the terminology the companies are using in the industry. Then we took some examples of the features that were present in the previous line. So there's a connectivity from the last line. So it's very, very essential in any case com that you have really good storytelling. And by storytelling, we don't need a lot of fancy stuff to happen. It's just every slide need to connect with the next slide. So if you showed the research in your first slide, you are showing the findings on the second slide. Then you're proposing some solutions. So all of these things really need to connect. So that's how the storytelling will work. So this is how we connected this slide to previous slide also. And then we compared passenger car, commercial cars, and super carry. Again, the we research what Maruti Suzuki offered, and then we tried to map them based on our customer survey or the market research. So on the top right, you can see we did some primary research of 60 adults in India. So through that, it gives us credibility to even map these features, and then we map them to different kind of segments that the Maruti Suzuki are into. So why this slide was essential is, even though you already have a portfolio ready, you also have a offerings ready, but from a company point of view, which has such a complex structure, you really need to map right things to the right customer so that they're targeted properly. So every feature that you are mentioning, every solution that you are mentioning in your slides need not be relevant to everyone. So there really need to be some logic on how things can be defined. So over to you, Kaveri.
Yeah, so in this slide, we again continued from the previous one and showed a risk return relationship model here. Uh, so the different features that we had shown in the previous slide, we mapped it on a yeah, this one. So we mapped it on a graph with high risk and high return, or low risk or low return category, and showed which feature that the company is offering will give them the most desirable output. For example, if something that is low risk and high return, it will be more desirable for the company rather than high risk, low return that is given in the features. So this is not a very mathematical risk return relationship that we usually do in MBA subjects, but this is more of a subjective analysis, or I would say qualitative analysis that we did here, and mapped it in on a graph on x and y axis. So this is in a way showing which features the company should prioritize to offer to its consumers, and through which they can get the most benefit. um, Next, moving on to this again, portfolio mapping is again an addition to the risk return model. So I will not delve deep into it. However, something like ecosystem partnerships. So since Maruti Suzuki is an automotive manufacturing company, it may not have all the expertise of offerings that they are going to give in the connected cars, right? So they need some telecommunication partners, they will need some entertainment partners, infrastructure partners, and so on. So we identified some of the players that exist in the market and then gave them an example of the partnerships that they can do with different firms. For example, for content and infotainment, they can partner with Netflix, Hotstar, and for telecom, they can go with the major players, Airtel and Jio. Um, so this is in a way showing the holistic uh, end-to-end plan for the company, that these are the features you're offering and how you're going to integrate it into the system. Can we move to the next slide, please? Yeah. Now, again, if we look at the problem statement that we had, we there was a section on data management. So these connected cars are going to uh, generate a lot of data for the consumer and also ask for a lot of data. So how is this data going to be managed from the consumer point of view and also from the manufacturer point of view? So, like Tushar discussed, there are different kinds of data, different kinds of interactions that are going to happen. V2I, V2V, V2X, and the local vehicle data. So we categorized into different data types and then showed which data is going to be relevant for which uh, stakeholder there, and who is going to own the data and who is going to be responsible for data security and privacy. This was a major part of the problem statement, so we needed to do a lot of research on what kind of data these cars produce, and what are the risks and the benefits of this data, basically. Then we like the graph on the RHS here, right hand side, the business model and the revenue stream. So we categorized the data first and then showed which data can be used as a revenue stream for the company. And again, like we have done a very clear categorization of who is going to produce the data, who is going to be the provider of the data, and who is going to be the stakeholder here, so that it can be clearly defined and categorized and then leveraged by the company. Now, the keeping the presentation apart, we can also here delve a little bit into the research that we did and how we went about it. Since connected cars is a very niche segment of automotive industry, and it's also a very new thing that is coming up in the industry, we also needed to do a lot of research and understand what this problem is. So for that, we went through a lot of research papers on connected cars, and then we also looked at a lot of industry reports that come out in the automotive sector. uh, Now when we talk about research, it can be industry experts interviews as well, yeah, if we go to the annexures, we can see different types of resources that we used. So these resources included reports by consulting players like McKinsey, Deloitte, BCG, and they had actually done a lot of surveys themselves on connected cars. So we as students don't have access to the very niche or very expert audience who is going to be, using these features, or who is going to be providing these features as well. In a case com which is, for example, based on consumer products or FMCG goods, you can directly go to the primary users and collect the data. However, for an upcoming product like connected cars, people may not have that much expertise, right? So we went to some industry players as well, and took their interviews. For example, in this slide, we have screenshots of some of the video calls that we did with um, Maruti Suzuki employees as well as Nissan employees. These are some of the examples. We connected with them on LinkedIn, and it's actually, some people are hesitant to contact others on LinkedIn, but mostly people are very helpful there, and they are ready to give their point of view, these experts. So please, this is a tip from our end. You don't need to hesitate. You can just reach out, and people will help you. Yes, coming back to the presentation. So all this information that you see on this slide is actually based on industry reports and the industry experts data that we gathered from there. Next slide, please. Yes. Now we are, in this slide, we are summarizing the data business model and how they can monetize the data, and different revenue streams that they can generate through this offering of connected cars. For example, if you see on the left, there is a revenue breakup per unit and cost breakup per unit. Now, when we actually show this slide to our juniors or our classmates, they were like, how do you know what is the revenue stream or what is the cost stream that comes up? So this all actually comes from the research. You have to go through industry reports and see what are the things going into making of the connected vehicle, and what are the revenues that you can generate. Of course, as students, sometimes you may not have the expertise, but it's all the research that you do that helps you to come through this kind of analysis. Okay, so we are also not experts in automotive or even uh, connectivity or ICT experts, but we went through a lot of consulting reports through which we understood what all cost will go into it. And again, the cost numbers are also not easy to gather. You have to find it on the internet itself mostly. Uh, so luckily, we found a few industry expert interviews and articles published by them, which had some guesstimated cost numbers for different inputs that are going in. So through that, we created the financial slide. And then on the right hand side, this is a very basic revenue and profit projection that we did. Um, so there was this consulting report by Deloitte, which had surveys of people, that how much they are willing to pay for so and so features, a combination of three or four features. So we leverage that to say that if on an average one person or a consumer is going to select XYZ features, how much they are going to pay for it. So we leveraged that and did our projections here for incremental revenue and profits. And we also use the sales data that Maruti Suzuki currently has in its annual reports there. So we saw how much sales they are doing right now and what are the projections that they can do for future. And of course, we don't know how much connected cars is going to be a part of their portfolio. To be safe, we said that if, for example, you're going to do X amount of sales of connected cars, we took a guesstimate from the most advanced car that Maruti Suzuki currently has and added a little bit over it, and then projected the shit, battery चली गई, battery खत्म हो गई.
Yeah, Tushar, I think you can take up.
Yeah.
Tushar,
So
you
yeah.
Uh,
So this
or
complete
I'll give a little bit of brief, like usually if there are financials, how you can tackle them. So first go through the
before
current, yeah,
before moving forward, since in our student community as well and in the previous master classes, we have seen that students are very much tensed about these financials. They want to understand how to develop the financials from the start. So could you give
correct,
us the base and could you develop them and tell them
correct.
how to work
I'll
on?
tell you the process, how, if any competition is there, how you should ideally approach the financials, right? So now you have created an idea, right? So you have idea A and idea B on your table, right? So there will be some cost associated with those ideas. So idea A will have a cost, for example, cost A, and idea B will have a cost, for example, cost B, right? Now these these are ideas, right? Ideally they should also produce revenue, so revenue A and revenue B. Now this is what you have to iterate and give figures to, right? So how do you do it? So you look at the company's current financial reports, and then you try to analyze what are their current sales, right? So for example, a company has a current sales of, let's say, 1,000 crores, right? If you implement idea A into in the company, then it will increase the sales to by 100 crores, right? Then the revenues will turn 1,100 crores, right? So how much incremental revenues that your ideas are going to bring to the company is the first step that you should ideally look at. So these are the revenues that my ideas can produce, right? So for that you take assumption, very reasonable assumptions, right? So the for market is, you have to consider three things over here, right? The first is how much your idea is going to add to the company's revenue. The second is how much the market is growing, right? For example, usually the market growth rate for these saturated markets like cars is 7 to 8%. So this is how the market is growing. Apart from that, how much your ideas are going to bring to the company's PNL, right? So once you have figured out the revenue part, then you look at the profit. So this is what the industry says, that the profit margins are on these products, right? For example, it is 10 to 20%. So then you calculate, okay, this is the ideal amount of profit that we should achieve using these ideas. Once you have created once you have figured out the revenues and the profits part, the bottom line also, then you estimate a cost, right? The incremental cost that should be required to achieve the desired revenue. Then you create a cost free bucket, right? Your ideas should cost in the such and such range. Then you try to divide that cost into different components, right? And then you run a guesstimate. Okay, if I implement idea A, then its net cost should be in this bucket, right? The cost again has two parts. One is the capex and the second is the opex. The capex is something that is one time. So initially, for example, you are implementing it in the first year, then most probably the revenues are not going to break even in the first time, so your cost component would be heavier. But over the period of years, your capex will be divided in those years, and there will be only opex components. So this is how you calculate the cost components also. So it's a backward approach that we use whenever we are going to come up with the financials, right? And once you have calculated the cost and the revenues, then you use certain frameworks to show it to the jury that, okay, these ideas are feasible. How do you do that? You can come up with break-even analysis, you can come up with return on investment analysis, you can come up with payback period analysis. So these are the three broader analysis that we use, and then we present it in the slides. Okay, this If even if I tell that this is the ROI on this idea, it gives the holistic picture of, okay, this is feasible or not, right? So this is how you create these financial analysis for the competitions.
And just to add a tip to what Ankush said, so always have a backup Excel. You can attach it on your slide, and in that you cannot show everything on the slide itself. Don't make it too much messy. All the tables, just like this Maruti slide, show the graphs, show things that you really want to show, the break-even analysis graph, ROI boxes, and in that Excel keep a backup of everything, so that it's might happen, especially in national finance. Out of three jury, there would be one person who would be very much focused on financials, and they will try to counter you and say, oh, this is not possible in 3 years, you can't achieve break even in 2 years, it's not this, not that. So that Excel will help you to stand there. You can always open that Excel, show what assumptions you're taking, what are the sources. You can always even put hyperlinked it to the sources of data from where you're getting, so that that will help you to stand and answer those questions in national finance, because financials can be tricky. But having a backup Excel will also help you to show them what are the sources you took.
Exhaustively explained by Ankush and Tushar. Thank you guys, and Kaveri, welcome back. We can take the discussion forward.
Sure. So
Sure.
before moving forward, Kaveri, there's a question I think for you in chat. What are all the sources of secondary research?
Please.
So like I mentioned earlier, secondary research that we did was from industry reports and consulting reports, like Deloitte, McKinsey, Gartner as well has very good insights on tech related issues. So they had some surveys done by for the consumers, like I mentioned earlier. So that was very useful in doing especially the financials and also the product feature mapping exercise that we did. Apart from this, we also connected with industry experts through LinkedIn, people who are already working in automotive companies like Maruti or Nissan, who helped us understand the consumer sentiment behind it or the company's point of view as well. Um, and I think there are certain articles that independently experts write. So in case competitions that require very technical or very niche kind of knowledge, you can always refer to them as well.
So yeah, you can also maybe look into your library. Like each college have
Yeah,
access to different kind of library resources they give. So you might have tools like Ace Analyzer, Statista. So those are also good
yeah.
secondary research sources.
And also one thing more, it's good to have a not just for this case competition, but for every case competition, you should for sure look at the annual report of the company that is giving the case competition, so that you can not only for the numbers, I would say, it is also for the vision or the kind of um, uh, they sometimes give you a next 5 years vision of the company, or where it is heading towards, or what are they prioritizing. So you can always communicate, use their vision to communicate your solution and frame it in a manner that matches with their vision. So it's through their annual reports and their websites, and also for like revenue numbers I mentioned. When you have to project the revenue or the sales that the company is getting through a particular product, you will always get it from the annual reports and the financial statements. Back to you, Tushar.
Yeah. So now moving on, as you might remember, the problem statement didn't have just one objective. There were three more. So we wanted to cover the infrastructure part in one slide. So again, we made our own framework. It's good to always refer to the frameworks that are already there that you read in your compendiums, the Prodman, the marketing, the consulting compendiums. But based on what the CaseCom is really asking you, what you really need to present, always try to make frameworks according to what can exactly answer the problem that's being asked. So for improving infrastructure, we made a framework where we were covering the external, internal, as well as a hybrid part. Based on again the secondary research, the interviews, we tried to put everything that might be required in terms of infrastructure on this one slider. Then came the part what can be the differentiating factor for Maruti Suzuki, because all other competitors can copy and make their own connected car portfolio. So this slide has a lot of background research in terms of what Maruti Suzuki already has offering. So they have Maruti Suzuki driving school, MS rewards, MS smart financing. So we wanted to again bundle this everything and make a whole differentiating factor. So we use the existing things on one box, and also we develop new strength in another right hand side box. What these things talk about, like MS vehicle health, media play, load assistant, these are again related to connected cars and what new features you can bring to Maruti Suzuki Zone, and bring everything together in one what we say omni channel or one go to point for any person who is connecting with or communicating with this connected cars portfolio. So you don't want to make things complicated from user customer experience point of view. So this was our differentiating factor. We wanted a Maruti Suzuki Zone where everything is getting connected in behind, and the user just has to interact with MS Zone either on the app or on the infotainment system screen that they have on the car. We use AI here just to answer Abhay's question in the past. AI ML, we use data analytics, all the sensors data that are required for connected cars, the infrastructure we talked about, everything get connected, and it's a seamless experience for the user. Everything is accessible at fingertip. So just to give it was again a little complicated idea. So what we did is we explained this idea with three use cases. Use cases are just examples so that everyone can understand what we are trying to achieve. So just to take one example, for the first use case we explain them what if someone required a seamless maintenance and booking. So connected cars will have sensors, they will record data. We have a proposed MS vehicle health that will detect what's the problem in which part. It will be shown on the MS zone, the My Maruti Suzuki zone, our differentiating factor. Then the customer can directly either buy genuine parts there through Maruti Suzuki genuine parts, which it's a infrastructure that already exists with them, or they can also book an appointment to the nearest center on MS service. And if they're doing any of this on the Maruti Suzuki zone, they are earning rewards. So we are making a whole new customer journey, which is very seamless, very customer centric, in a way that it gives a differentiating factor for the Maruti Suzuki as well as its customer. We gave them two more use cases to explain what can this Maruti Suzuki zone finally reach out to. And finally, we ended with this whole our presentation. Again, we have covered annexures in detail, as we already told, and we always used to put a lot of slides in annexure just to give credibility to our research, to explain our finances our in detail, and also give them sources. So we always end with some impactful lines also on our thank you slide, so that the key communication that we have covered don't get lost, and finally we end on those notes. So yeah, that's all from our side, and we are open to any more questions that you might have.
Thank you, Tushar. Thank you, Ankush. Thank you, Kaveri, for showing your presentation and telling your experience about Maruti Xcelerate. So we have few questions in comments. So that since you have told about, I think the financial part, some of the jury might have asked you the financial questions. So could you tell us more about the questions asked by the jury in finals?
Sure. So for financials specifically, if we talk about, they first of all asked us how are the numbers coming in. So we mentioned that this is your own annual report data that we have projected further. So that gives them credibility as well, that we how we calculated the sales. Like I said, we took the sales of this year, like last year, when we were making it, and then uh, for the connected cars, we estimated the price to be as the highest or the most advanced car that Maruti currently has. We added some cost element to it, the cost that we already had gathered from an analyst report or an expert report, and also some profit margin. Like in general, what is the profit margin of Maruti Suzuki? We saw it from the financials and then kind of projected it over. So they were satisfied with that answer. But then they were like, how are you actually coming to the amount that the consumer is ready to pay for the connected car? So how are you actually calculating the connected car added benefit or the added revenue? So we went back to, if we can go back to, I think, slide 2 or 3, there is a graph that we have taken from, not directly taken, but yeah, this is next slide, please. Yes. So on the RHS, if you see, this is, yeah, on the key consumer insights, if you see, there are different combination of features that Deloitte has taken in their survey. So we said that this is Deloitte survey that they did with a number of consumers, and we linked it also in our annexures that this is the amount or the willingness to pay of for a set of features. So we said that we have taken us on an average, if a consumer is buying 3 features, how much will they be willing to pay? For example, there is a more than 50,000, only 25% are willing to pay for automatic assistance and so on. So we took the insights from there, and that is how we came up. And they were quite satisfied with our answer on this one because it was backed by Deloitte report and also their own annual reports. So it's not something that we are coming out from thin air, right? It's backed by some analysts and expert opinions.
Any other experience, Tushar and Ankush, you would like to share?
Yes, so from to summarize what Kaveri said and what has been our experience so far in different case competition, I think there are usually questions around how did you conducted the primary research, what were the insights, right? How did what is the understanding of the problem and how the solution is going to fit in that. So usually these are the buckets in which the jury asks the questions, right? So for that you need to have rationales, right? So rationale around this, this was the problem statement, and that's why this kind of research made more sense to us, right? And this is why this solution is the perfect fit for that problem, right? So these are the kind of question that the that are usually asked by the juries in the final.
Also, to add on, like the primary research also we did. In this case, for example, there is not everyone who will be interested in connected cars, so we had to specify what kind of individuals, with what kind of motivations we interviewed or surveyed for the primary research. Secondary research is of course already backed by analysts and experts, but the audience that you take for primary research is critical. If you are not looking at the correct set of consumers or the target audience, then your whole hypothesis goes into the waste, right? So you have to clarify that also sometimes in the questions.
So let's move on to the last question of this masterclass. So it's like very difficult to make two-slider presentation. So any tips and tricks from your side to make an effective two-slider? Since I think two-slider is the first round of getting into any case competition. So could you give any tips and tricks?
I'll take that up for beginning, and then I think Tushar can add on further. So, for making a two slider, we usually divide it in two parts, right? The first part is more focused around the market and the primary research, which is basically the understanding of the problem. And the second slide is dedicated mostly around the solution part, right? So, in the first slide, what we put is the market. This is how the market is behaving. These are the drivers and deterrents to the market, and this is the primary research that we did. This is the snapshot of the insights that we figured out, and finally this is the overall behavior, that is overall crux of the problem statement that we think is very crucial and levers to the main problem, right? So this is the overall structure that we usually follow for the first slide. For the second slide, we put solutions in buckets, right? A, B, C, these are the solutions that we have. A, B, C, D, n number of solutions you can have. And then how they are going to solve the problem, right? So there is problem, solution and impact, right? These things, and there are 1, 2, 3, 4 solutions. Then how are you going to prioritize this? A, B, C, D. There is certain frameworks that you can use for prioritization. That's it. So usually the problem and the solution. These are what the theme broader themes should be in the two slider. Tushar, if you want to add further.
So I would like to add from what you really need to focus. So it's okay if you want you have to present a one slider, two slider, 10 slider. What will really help you is you first instead of focusing on the slides, try to really focus on your research. If you have a really good research, be innovative in it. Try to do some genuine research. Google Forms will not always help. Do some interviews, maybe some focus group, those kind of things. And when you have done some genuine research, you will get even you will get a lot of data, but you will find some challenges or some pain points that are really being missed out by the company or are standing out. So when you have done a genuine market research, you find some pain points that are like really standing out, then you will be able to do it in one slider, two slider, 10 slider. It doesn't matter, because you have a really good market research and background. You have identified big pain points, so you can highlight them. If you just need to make one slider, you can highlight the main pain point in that. It doesn't matter, you don't need 10 slides for that. And also I would also like to add, if you have just a limitation of slides like one slider, two slider, focus on what's the most important pain point or challenge that you think is standing out and being missed by the company. There are sometimes things in hindsight that the company is being missed out. It's a very obvious thing, but you feel like, okay, this is the major pain point that you see, the major challenge. You can always highlight that. In terms of solutions also, don't always make a solution that comes to your mind in the first time. Always discuss in your group, counter each other, and then the solution that you as a group really think will stand out the test of time, any things that's thrown into it, focus on those solutions. You just have a two slider to make, so don't put everything that's coming onto your mind the first thing. Okay, we will, you have solution A proposed by Ankush, solution B proposed by Tushar, solution C proposed by Kaveri. We always used to discuss and counter each other, do a lot of it might get ugly also, but the end solution that we are proposing is always we all think will stand anything that's thrown into it. So give it time, give it some good debates, and then I'm sure you can summarize everything that you have done, the research and solution part, in one slider itself also.
And you can also always add annexures for your research in the one slider as well. I think a lot of people miss that, but you can always add annexures. That doesn't mean you have to add your solutions in the annexure. You just need to add your research and the background that has gone into it.
So I think we can end this masterclass. Thank you, Ankush. Thank you, Tushar. Thank you, Kaveri, for collaborating with Grad Partners. Thank you, all the students, to join us in this masterclass. Hopefully, they have covered all your questions and all the details about Maruti Accelerate Challenge. If you have any doubt, any question, you can reach out to them on LinkedIn, or anything related to, you can ask on our community channel. And lastly, subscribe to this Grad Partners Challenge to learn more about case competition and keep updating regarding the masterclasses. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All the best.